hope you're enjoying my dad's videos. Make sure to share this video with family and friends, like and subscribe, and turn on post notifications so you get notified for all my dad's new videos. My social media will be tagged down below so you can follow it. And just remember, Jesus loves you.
Hi guys, just one little factor here before we start this video here today. If for any reason my YouTube channel gets taken down, which could happen because we're challenging the deep state and we're challenging the powers behind the scenes. But if it does get taken down, I'm going to share the link below here. We have a website, drcharlieward.co.uk, and you can subscribe on there to our updates and our newsletters, etc., that are being produced by Lee Hemington. But you'll be able to keep in touch with what's going on. So at the moment, everything is nice and smooth. But if for any reason we get taken down, you simply go to my website, drcharlieward.co.uk, and register there, and you'll get all the information as to where we are or where you can view our videos. Hi guys, today I've got Tara Dean with me. Welcome, Tara.
Hi Charlie, thanks for having me here.
Absolute pleasure. We were supposed to have Jodie with us as well, but she's been caught up in something else. So it's just Tara and I today, and we were discussing what's happening in the world right now. And we just had a little brief chat about what's actually happening in the world. And Tara has been studying GESARA and just studying what's going on. And let's continue the conversation we were having, Tara, about what's happening with the world right now.
Okay, no problem. So with GESARA, most people are starting to hear about GESARA and what it entails with regards to a gold-backed currency, which is one of the main keys, redistribution of wealth, payroll tax elimination, a flat tax, etc. Also with the healing beds, the healing technologies, the cures and everything else to be released. And a lot of people along the way, because I've been following this for about 4 years now, we've all been expecting it to be a snap change, that 1 minute it's going to be the old system and then GESARA is going to be announced and then everything will change. But what I've seen over the last 6 months, well, there's been other changes in the last year or two, but mainly over the last 6 months, it's made me realise that this is going to be a real slow transition. It's not going to be this shock that we're in one old system to another. I mean, you can't turn around and say to all the American people that for the last 100 odd years you've been paying income tax and it's been illegal and we've been robbing off you, because there's just going to be mutiny on the streets. They're going to go crazy. So I think the whole coronavirus and the protests and everything else are being used to bring elements of GESARA into play slowly, bit by bit. So the coronavirus payments or the coronavirus relief payments are, I believe, a part of the redistribution of wealth. And people will say that's socialism. It's not. This is money that's been stolen from them, their grandparents, their great-grandparents. It's not money that you're getting that you're not entitled to. It's money that's been stolen from people out generations. So that's, I believe that this is the start, a rollout of redistribution of wealth. The payroll tax, you know, Trump's saying that he's going to defer that because people haven't been working and businesses have been closed and things. But again, that's still elements of GESARA. So this is how I see it playing out. And then the gold-backed currency, I think that's something that's going to happen after the election. You've got the HR 504 and the HR 25, which are sat in the House of Representatives. And that's obviously controlled by the Democrats at the moment. So that's not going anywhere until Trump wins the election. And the HR 25 is the elimination of the IRS and the complete abolishment of payroll tax. And HR 504 is bringing back the gold-backed currency, the gold standards. So those things he can actually bring forward as law once he wins the election in November. So a lot of people are still expecting things before the election as far as GESARA, but I really think that we will possibly go through the election and come out the other side before those things happen.
I totally agree with you. And the one thing that most people are unaware of is that NESARA documentation that we now publish and GESARA was actually written in 1962. And it was changed again before September the 11th, when it was due to be launched then, and it's been changed again. We probably won't hear politicians name it as NESARA or GESARA. We're starting to see things happen. We're seeing the forgiveness of debt. So it probably won't be as Tara and I wanted, a big fanfare saying, it's here, you know, it's being phased in very gently. And I was talking to Tara earlier about what's happened here in Spain and what's happened in France. What's happened here in Spain is the police forces here, the national police, have suddenly found out that the pension fund that they've been paying into for years and years and years is empty. Now, the British police force are going to find the same. The French are finding the same. The Germans are finding the same. They're finding the pension funds are empty. Now, what's happened in Spain is they've blamed it on King Juan Carlos. Oh, he's stolen the money, he's gone. We all know he's in Guantanamo Bay, but they don't know that. They think he's on holiday in Abu Dhabi or the Dominican Republic. He's not. He's in Guantanamo Bay, mark my words. And he hasn't stolen the money. I tell you who's stolen the money. It's your government who's stolen the money. Fair and square. The Spanish government has stolen your pension fund. So have the Germans, so have the English, so have the French, so have the Portuguese, so have the Italians. The governments have stolen your pension fund. This is why they're trying to extend the time you work, because they're trying to cover their tracks. They don't know what to do. The pension fund's empty. So the police in Spain, the national police, they're working, but they're not going out of the police station. They're staying low profile because they realise their money's gone. This affects people's performance. So I was sitting down and trying to work out what is going on. And suddenly the penny dropped. This is how, as part of GESARA, as part of the conditions, they'll bring in martial law, they'll bring in the military. Now, the public would panic under normal circumstances if you brought in the military. What's going on? Now, when the police step down, they've left a void. So the public will go, we need the military to look after us. So that runs very smoothly. And people accept the military on the streets because the police aren't there. You know, we've been through this before. So it's not a shock. So suddenly when the military are on the ground and we're under martial law, and what happens is the governments will then be exposed as thieves and liars. And they'll be taken down. They'll be taken down by the people, and they'll be taken down by Donald Trump himself. They'll be removed. And then there'll come a period of reflection. And during that period of reflection, we'll move into a GESARA government. The GESARA government is not Labour, Conservative, the Vox Party, the Democrats, the Republicans. It's nothing to do with party denomination. It's between good and evil. And the government that will stand will have a choice as to who we want to represent that party. The GESARA party, I don't know what it will be called, but the principles will be GESARA in the world outside of America. It will be NESARA, national in America, and GESARA global, the rest of the world. But what we will know is the type of people we do not want running our world. And these are the thieving, dirty, lying bastards that we've had for the last 50 years. So this painful experience is to expose what we don't want. And then we'll have people that will stand up and say, I want to represent the people.
Yeah. I think also it's about, because we don't want to enter into the same cycle where we're voting someone in power and it all happens again. So there needs to be a lot of changes within the system. I think the voting system obviously needs to be changed. It's accountable, because whether that goes via blockchain or whatever, because I was talking to my friend last night, and say you've got an MP and he's representing a town or a city, and he says he's representing the people, and he has to, you know, he's going to represent the majority of the people. So say you vote against the law and someone else votes the majority for the law. How do you know which is the majority that he's representing? Because we don't see those figures. We can't see them in reality, because the figures are always fluffed. So there needs to be some transparency on a voting system where we can genuinely see that that's the majority that's voted for that law. And then also I think there needs to be an accountability on a short term, because 4 years is too long to have a government in power if they're not doing what they said. So there needs to be a timeline where if they haven't done what they've said within a year, they're gone. So it means that people that are going to be held accountable, and there's transparency. So they need to go in and do what they say, or they're gone. That needs to happen within the voting system.
I totally agree with you, Tara, and there's living proof of that in London with the Lord Mayor, who's done a shocking job and still thinks he's doing a wonderful job. It just shows you how narrow-minded and corrupt these people are. You need people in there that will represent the people and represent the people's view.
Yeah.
We haven't had that for years, but this is where we're moving to. And I totally agree with you. I think that when people get into power, I don't think 4 years is the right term. I think that we should review it every year.
Yeah.
And if you're not doing your job, you should be out. But if you are, you could continue year by year by year by year for 10 years if you're doing your job, or 20 years if you're doing your job. The minute you don't, you've got a 1 year, right, we're coming after you and you're out. But I'm sure they've thought this through, because these are big mistakes that we've made in government for the last 50 years, where we've voted people in who've not done good.
But the thing is, even if we wanted to vote them out, the voting system's so rigged that we wouldn't be able to get rid of them anyway. We don't know what's going on behind the scenes. We don't know whether there's a majority voting a certain person in power. It's what we get told, because everything's rigged. So there needs to be that system where there's accountability and transparency, so that we can really see that the majority are going for X person or X law.
I've had the blueprints of the blockchain voting system that attaches to the quantum financial system. So this new system, you'll vote from your mobile phone, because you'll identify yourself, and it will have all your identity details in there.
Yeah.
And you'll know exactly who's voted and where they've voted. So all this postal votes and vote rigging and etc., which has gone on since time began, and it's been absolutely rife for the last 30 to 50 years. And I know that because I was involved in moving funds around the world to assure that certain people got in. So your vote really didn't count, because we know how much it costs to get certain people into power in certain countries. Guarantee that position. So that's where I came from, learning about that side of it. So I can tell you firsthand that it happens because I was involved in it.
It's the same in the legal system as well. I mean, I've had a few little run-ins through driving offences in my early days, and there was one court case that I had, and I was innocent anyway, but I had a solicitor, and he said to me, "You're going to have to plead guilty," and I was like, "I'm not pleading guilty because I've not done anything wrong." So that one I sacked and got another one. So we went to court, but the guy, one of the solicitors actually said, "It's all right. I'm drinking buddy with the other guy. We've had a chat, and I'm going to win this one." I was like,
yeah. As
much as I was innocent, I was completely appalled by the fact that they were just having a wink and a nod and deciding who was going to win that case. And that's literally what it's like in the legal system as well. It's shocking.
Well, I've had a situation in Spain, much the same, where my lawyer said, "Oh, yeah, I went to school and university with the judge. We don't have a problem with this one."
Pardon?
My lawyer in Spain went through school and went through university with the judge.
Right.
And he said to me, "We won't have a problem with this one, Charlie. You don't need to worry."
Oh, right. Yeah.
And on that particular case, I hadn't done anything wrong. The question is though, as part of GESARA, we'll move away from maritime law, which is an incredibly corrupt system. I mean, it's so corrupt, it's unbelievable. Hopefully back to common law. That's how I understand it.
Yeah.
And that's what Trump is pushing for. But at the moment, his hands are tied to a level because of the fact that the Democrats are still in control of one of the houses. That will come to a bitter end in November.
Yeah.
But they already know they've lost. They know that. And they're fighting like dogs. and it's human nature.
They're not going to go down without a fight, are they?
They're
But
not.
then the whole legal system is another reason, as another way of making people see that, you know, this switch just can't happen overnight. You've got all the lawyers that need to be retrained in common law. So that's not going to happen overnight. That again needs to be a transition. You know, you've got the financial system, the medical system, and the legal system all needs changing. So it's got to happen gradually. But I think that the good news is that we are changing for the better, and we are going to slowly see, you know, our lifestyles improving, debt going. I mean, that for most people hanging over their shoulders is huge. So just debt going alone is going to be enough to improve many people's quality of life. And then you're not getting your wages taxed. So that's another 20% of your wages that you're going to have. And then if you've got the universal basic income on top of that, people are still going to work because it's only sort of £1,200 a month. It's about, you know, most people's, that's not even pay many people's mortgages or rents, but it relieves that pressure and that burden where you're working to survive every single day, and allows people to actually take a breath and live and actually start becoming aware of what other things are going on in the world other than being on that treadmill every single day, working to survive. So it's about gradually lifting people's awareness and taking people out of survival mode and lack, and bringing them into a state where they're actually living and starting to take notice of the sky and the fact that it's blue instead of covered in chemtrails and things like that, because people are just completely oblivious to the whole thing.
No, I totally agree with you. We're coming into a wonderful period. And the interesting thing is that you tend to find the poorest people are the most generous.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a very easy thing to say, well, that's why they're poor. No, they're generous in spirit. And I think when we go through this period, you'll see these people blessed for what they have been through and what they've done, because they have been robbed blind. By the tax system, by the system in general. And you'll find that these people naturally are humanitarian minded, and you'll find that they'll be rewarded to a level that they least expected. But you'll find that they'll help so many more people because it's in their DNA.
Yeah, it's human nature to want to help people because it makes you feel good as well to help someone. So, you know, it's human nature, and a lot of people will fall into that part of, you know, of their future is doing humanitarian work. But the other thing I wanted to talk about with you know, with us being robbed blind with all the taxes and things, is a lot of people with the universal basic income, they're like, well, where's all the money coming from? You know, we haven't got money, that's why our taxes are going up. And what people don't realise is that yes, the government is saying that they produce their accounting books each year and they say we haven't got enough money and we need more taxes and we need this, but they don't realise is there's two sets of accounting books, and they've got the one book that they show to the people where there's not enough money, and there's the other accounting book where they're creaming all the money from the people with the taxes and everything else, and then they've got a huge investment portfolio which they're investing in companies like Amazon and Google and oil companies and everything else. And where's all that money going? That's not being shown to the people. They're taking from the people their hard-earned money. They're making it look like this, you know, the pot is empty, but they're putting the money in another pot. So that's why there's going to be a redistribution wealth program, and it will be taken from the likes of Amazon and Google, and it will be redistributed to people and local businesses and everything else. That's the plan of GESARA, is to take from these huge corporations, because that's where the money's been stolen from the people anyway, and put it back to the small local businesses and start looking after them. And so people need to realise that. And you've got you've got two sets of accounting books where you've got, you know, investments in huge corporations. You've got the stolen wealth from around the world with the gold, which you've touched on many times with your shows. You've talked about the stolen wealth from Gaddafi and Afghanistan, etc. But then there's also the untapped, unmined wealth that's around the world that we're sitting on, that, like Venezuela, for instance, is sitting on 300 billion barrels of oil.
Yeah.
And that goes in, I think it's like $13 trillion worth of oil they're sitting on, and they're one of the poorest countries. And the reason being is because the Saudis want to have a monopoly on the oil distribution. So they don't want Venezuela mining their, taking their oil and distributing it and lowering the price of the barrel of oil, because they want the monopoly. And you've got Zimbabwe, they're sat on millions and millions of tons of gold.
Yeah.
So the poorest countries are actually probably one of the most wealthiest. And I saw, I went on a website yesterday. So I thought I'll have a look at, what countries have got all these precious minerals. You've got bauxite, copper, coal, uranium, gold, diamonds. And I was looking at all the really poor countries, South Africa, South America. They've got so much, and they've literally got the whole list of all these precious metals. And then you look at the UK, we've got one dot in the UK, which is on the northeast coast, which is our oil supply. We don't even have coal anymore. And it's just crazy that, these poor countries have got millions and millions of tons of precious metals that they're not able to access because of manipulation and control through the global politics. So there's so much wealth out there. People just haven't. And then you've got the trusts. So, you've got, what was it, $250 billion in the trusts as well.
Yeah.
So people have no idea how much wealth has been hidden from us, and they need to realize there's an abundance out there for all of us.
It's very interesting, that point, because I've been working with a team that have been doing the evaluation of what it actually takes to run the world financially. And because they were discussing, it's already been planned. They haven't told me the final figure, but it's between 13 and 17%. There'll be one purchase tax on non-essential items. But there is enough money on non-essential items between 13 and 17%. That's the only tax needed to fund the entire finance of the world and give everybody a normal wage, including giving everybody a nominal wage to cover your basic cost of living, so that you can actually come out of the poverty trap that the poverty debt trap that everybody's in. Everybody would have enough just basically to survive as a bare minimum. Just from between 13 and 17% tax. Then on top of that, you can go and work so that you can increase your wealth by whatever you want to. But know that you've got a foundation that you can survive and pay your bills without having to worry.
Yeah.
If you're a mother and you have children at home and you want to stay with your family, you can do it, or a father for that matter. But it will give you a safety net that has been calculated out. And the repairing of the roads is the question I get all the time. Even that is built into the cost equation, because we get rid of all the wastage that we have right now in our lives. And the House of Parliament and the House of Lords, you have no idea how much wastage that is. No idea at all. I mean, it's a financial drain. For people who've owned a boat, you might as well just have a funnel and pour as much money into the sea as you've got. That's what a boat costs to run. Well, I tell you what, the government is 10 times worse than running a boat, because you just keep pouring in 10 times more money and it keeps disappearing. I mean, it's unbelievable how much disappears in the governments around the world. Unbelievable.
And then also contracts as well. So I've come from a construction background. So I had a business in construction, and I've got friends that have got businesses in construction. And for one example, my friend did a job on Crossrail.
Yeah.
And he just had to basically erect a barrier so that they could split the area between the customers that were going and the work area where they were continuing, the work site. And I think it cost him about 50,000 in cost to put that up, and he charged them 300,000, and he got the job. Because a lot of it's backhanders, but a lot of it's, they don't care, because it's not their money. It's not their money, and they just dishing, and it's the people's money.
Yeah,
it's crazy. So even on that side of things, is they're just hemorrhaging money left, right, and centre.
They are. They definitely are. It's very much like the new HS2 or whatever they call it, the high-speed rail track between London, the Midlands, and the North, and how the prices have gone completely out of hand. And I've been working very closely with the Chinese government, and that we do a lot of work with them. They've offered to build that for under half the price. And the government at the moment have turned their back on their offer.
They will go with someone who's giving them a backhander. I mean, in my job, I was new in the industry in my business, and I could offer a job for a quarter of the price.
Yeah.
And they would use my job to beat down the other companies just a little bit, just so they got a backhander, but they'd end up paying double.
Yeah.
Because they you know, these little backhanders of brown envelopes go in between each other. So.
I don't think the most of the world out there have any idea how corrupt the government has been. All of our governments have been for so long. And thank God for Donald Trump, who's draining that swamp, and he's doing a phenomenal job doing it.
Absolutely.
It's absolutely amazing to see. You know, I point out to people about Brussels, the European Union. There's nothing wrong with Europe, nothing wrong at all. It's the Union. The European Union, as a body, has 10,000 employees in Brussels, and they're all on salaries over £250,000 each, and they all have expense accounts of over 500,000 each per year. Most of them at 750,000. The average for each person is £1 million per year for 20,000 people. And you go, really, what a complete and utter waste of money. And all the people that are there, I know you're Welsh, but it does make me laugh that the people who made the laws for England were people that we voted out of power, who happened to be Welsh, who was Neil Kinnock and his wife. So we vote them out of power because we don't like them, because they're not what we want. They get into power to make our rules for us in the European Union without a vote, and both have best part of £1 million a year each as a thank you. And that when the penny drops with you on that's going on, you go, well, I'm not happy with that. It's time to wake up to what's actually happening. You know, it's the governments are so corrupt. The European Union, Donald Trump referred to it as the Nazi states of Europe, and I was like, wow, that's harsh. But I tell you what, I'm starting to learn he's absolutely spot on.
He's not wrong. He never has been. I think touching on Donald Trump is really important as well for those who are kind of stuck with all presidents are selected, not elected. And a lot of people there in the truther community are kind of really sort of ground to halt when it comes to looking into Donald Trump and supporting Donald Trump. And we get a lot of questions like, well, why is he still funding Israel? And why is he funding the EPA? And why is he doing this? He's president. He should be able to change all that. He's been in power for now 3.5 years, 4 years. I don't think people really understand the structure of the US government. They think that because he's elected as president, he can just go in, snap his fingers and change all the laws, the regulations, the funding, where the funding goes, etc. He doesn't have that control, and people don't realize that. They don't realize that, you know, laws have to be passed and they have to go through the House first and then approved at the Senate. He didn't. So, you know, because the Dems are controlling the House, that's not going to happen. So that's why he's issuing the executive orders that he does, because that's the only power that he has at the moment, is via the executive orders. Also, when he's looking at funding, so say he was trying to put more money into the military because they'd obviously been drained, he'll go to the table and he'll say, well, I need this for the military. He's still going to get it approved, and the Democrats are blocking all the way. And they'll go, okay, well, you can have that for the military, but we want this for Israel. Or you can have that for the military, or we want this for Planned Parenthood. And there's, at some point, he's got to pick his battles and pick which ones that he needs to win there and then. And he's got to sometimes let something slide. It's not that he's happy with it, but sometimes he's got to let that slide for now, for the greater good, for what he needs here. And people need to start understanding that side of things as well. And I was able to understand that through watching a series. And I've not watched TV for 8 years, but in my last relationship, my partner was desperate to get me to watch TV because it's the social thing to do, whatever. So he was always trying to find something for me to watch. And we came across a series called Designated Survivor. I don't know if you've seen it. No? Well, it's to do with, it's basically a parallel story of what Trump is going through on a different concept. So what happens is every member in the US government ends up getting blown up by some terrorist attack. So the vice president, the House speaker, everybody. So this designated survivor is the person that's been allocated to take over as a president if everything else fails, you know, like there's a mass terrorist attack like there was. So the guy that's replacing the president, he just works in home and environment. He's just an architect, so he's not a politician really. He's not, you know, corrupt. He's not had all these backhanders. He's just there working in the, you know, in the housing design or something. But he's a guy with morals, and he goes into this presidency and he goes in as an independent. He doesn't want to be either party because he's seen the corruption through the years, so he chooses to go in as an independent. And it shows you there him going to the table and trying to get funding for people in Puerto Rico and things like this. And then you can see him being blocked by the other parties because they just want to conflict with him for the sake of conflicting. They want him to toe the line.
Yeah.
And it also shows you the corruption between the House and the Senate and all the other global leaders. And so he's president, but they were all pulling the strings behind his back. And that was really interesting to see. So I think that for people to understand what Trump's going through on a political sense, it would be really good for them to watch that series, because it shows the corruption that's going on, and it shows what Trump is having to face on a day-to-day basis. So that's a really good one to watch, and it will open people's eyes as to why things are happening that they think shouldn't be happening in the Trump administration.
No, I totally agree with you. And he's having a real difficult time. And of course, the mainstream media will only publish the other side of the coin. They won't publish his side.
Yeah, yeah. And also what I noticed with Trump, because I mean, I was the same when I was researching, you know, I found Q before I found Trump.
Yeah.
And I resonated with Q a lot, you know, because he was exposing all the corruption and the trafficking and everything else. So I resonated with him on a truth level. And then when Q started talking about Trump, I was like, hang on a minute. I'd not even looked into Trump at that point because I wasn't interested in politics. I've lost my train of thought there. So I found Q. Oh God, where was I going on that way?
You were talking about your journey from finding Q and then.
Oh, so I was talking about the headlines. Yeah. So okay. I thought, well, I'm gonna have to look into this, because if you read a headline and it's big bad man and he's doing this, that, and the other. But even if you look into the article of that headline, it tells a completely different story. So you can see that people's bias are almost coming just from the headline itself, because the story is completely different. And then I started looking beyond the story and started looking into the executive orders that he was writing, and then the structure of the government and seeing where the power lays. So it took me a while to research, because I questioned everything with regards to Trump. Yeah, well, why is he funding the EPA? Why is he sending money to Israel? But I was able to see it through future digging rather than just sticking my heels in going, no, he's one of them. I'm not interested. I'm not going to research anymore. So, sure. But yeah, once you research, the truth is there for you to see.
It's amazing how much truth is out there when you start looking for it. And you can only start looking for it when you turn your television off.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you'll be contaminated, because there's so much, well, it's just absolutely non-stop wall-to-wall bullshit at the moment coming out of the media on every single level. And, you know, I see all this I like my sport, and I love my football, and I love my rugby, I love my motor racing, etc., Grand Prix, etc. Black Lives Matter everywhere. And that's just a left-wing extremist, which is complete bullshit. We have it on the right too with the Ku Klux Klan. You know, you have the, I don't promote either. They're both evil. They're both as bad as each other. But they're both political wings, and you just go, you know, the extremists are the ones that we want to avoid. It's all completely fabricated to create division. I grew up. I'm a lot older than you, Tara, and I grew up with the with the fighting between the Protestants and the Catholics in Ireland. Yeah. And I look back at it and just go, same God, same Bible, different interpretation, and you want to kill each other.
Yeah, I remember that with the IRA and the Catholics and the Protestants. Yeah, definitely, I remember that.
It's so
I was still quite young, but I remember it.
So divisional, and then of course, my wife is Muslim, I'm a Christian. You had the division between the Muslims and the Christians. It's been created, completely fabricated. And then you have it between black and white, between man and woman, between Sunni and Shia and everything else. I've actually been in the palaces in Dubai during Ramadan for iftar in the majlis. And I've been sat there and I've seen a Sunni and a Shia cleric sat together like brothers. And I was sitting there thinking, I'm on the outside, I'm sure you're supposed to hate each other. And then the word brotherhood springs to mind. You think, oh, okay, this is all political. And you see Christians, Muslims, Sunnis, Shias, every religion, and the Indian religions, many of those, all inside this majlis for iftar, the breaking of the fast during Ramadan, with absolutely zero animosity.
Yeah.
Zero. I mean, not even a fraction. The only thing that's not there is women. It's just men, but that's a cultural thing that will maybe change. Who knows? Things are changing.
What's going to be interesting is because we should all be uniting. It doesn't matter what race, color, gender, whatever we are. We all need to be united. It's good against evil. That's it. Right against wrong. That's where we need to be. And I went to the rally last weekend, which was the Save the Children rally, or Save the Children walk. It was good. There was a good little turnout, but I was trying to find people that were going to go, and they're like, "Oh no, we're going to go to next week's one, which is the anti-coronavirus one." And I got really, really annoyed, because I thought, this is Save the Children. Like, well, next week is going to be a bigger rally, so we're going to that one. And I got really annoyed for a while. I drove home so angry as well, because I thought, it's, the children matter. But I'm starting to see that, okay, I always ask, what is it going to take for people to wake up? And I always said to myself, as long as people can put food over the table and they've got roof over their heads, they're just going to carry on like, I'm all right, Jack. Well, the coronavirus has woke people up because it's put everyone in a situation where they're worrying about the roof over their heads and they're worrying about putting food on the table. Sure. And everybody has been affected by this. So it doesn't matter whether it's colour, race, whether it's to do with child trafficking or anything. This is actually uniting people together all as one against the government and what they're doing. So I kind of got annoyed, but it is a blessing in disguise as well. So it is going to unite people, and it is waking people up and making people realise. And I'm sure on Saturday there's going to be so many people from different, towns, cities, religions, colour, everything, and everyone is going to be completely united on Saturday against one political agenda, and it's going to be really good. There's going to be, apparently there's going to be 35,000 police on the streets of London on the weekends, because it's supposed to be a big rally. So
you're telling me as well then, based on that information, that we've got some sheep that are awake.
Well, they're awake, yeah, they're awake and they're waking. And I think this is a huge catalyst, definitely. That the coronavirus is in everyone's pockets, everyone's affected, so now people are starting to wake up. And this is what it took. That's why people in, the socialist countries like Venezuela, this is why they can come to the streets all together and protest, is because everybody's affected. So it matters to them. And this is what we need. This is what it takes. Everyone's got to be hurt. Everyone's got to get stung to be able to stand up together and unite and get this sorted once and for all.
Well, we're on a fabulous journey, aren't we, Tara? I mean, it's an amazing journey. And for people who've been watching it for a while and seeing it unfold, for me personally, it's absolutely beautiful to watch. Yes, it's very painful for a lot of people. I understand that. But you need to suffer that pain to understand what's going on. Because without the suffering, you will never get it. You'll never understand it.
Yeah. Yeah, you've got to move from the state of comfort to being uncomfortable before you can want change.
Exactly. Otherwise, you just sit there and just go with the flow.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Tara, it's been absolutely amazing. Thank you for joining me this morning.
Thank you.
And we'll have to do it again, because there's so much more to tell people on this journey. And we're in a fast-moving world right now. Things are changing rapidly. So having people like Tara speaking out with her knowledge is very beneficial and very, very good. So we'll do it again sometime soon, Tara. Thank you very much.
Yeah. It's a pleasure. It's great to have all these minds together and putting their perspective on things. So I appreciate you having me on. Thanks, Charlie.
No problem. I'll get you on a round table as well soon.
Okay then, no problem.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Hi, it's Justin, and I hope you're enjoying my dad's videos. Make sure to share this video with family and friends, like and subscribe, and turn on post notifications so you get notified for all my dad's new videos. My social media will be tagged down below so you can follow it. And just remember, Jesus loves you.